Trump hits back at the courts for allowing them to release his tax records. This is how you fight.
Go, go, go! Strong words, strong mind, strong body, good times. Nothing I won't put on trial, and that's why I'm in exile.
Black circles under my eyes. No black circles under my eyes. Black circles under my eyes. But I'm blind. This is burning my retina. All I see are little white flowers everywhere. Get this garbage. Oh, hello. I'm Doug TenNapel. I'm the creator of Earthworm Jim, The Neverhood, Cat Scratch, and over 20 graphic novels. I've worked as a television animator, obviously comic books, video games, and I'm a fine artist. I like to paint and draw. That's the main thing I do. But in my spare hobby time, I like to talk about politics. I specifically like to find the positive way forward for conservatives because there's never a reason to lose hope. And over here, I have Trump's response to the Supreme Court for them not blocking New York from wanting to release his taxes. This is the actual document that Trump released with his letterhead. The office of Donald J. Trump. This is from yesterday. Statement on the continuing political persecution of President Donald Trump. Does he have a persecution complex? Don't we all? But just so we can go line by line through it, it was transcribed over at the Epic Times, so I can read that line by line. This has brilliant tactics all throughout it. This is from Trump just spewing, but it comes from his heart. This isn't polished political rhetoric. This is a man in the trenches who is pushing back against a political system. And thank you all for your subscription. I reached 450,000 subscribers. But what's great about Trump fighting against the system is that's how we all feel. We're all frustrated with this giant superstructure of politics and law that we all have to live under. What's unique about America is that we're allowed to critique it. We're allowed to push against it. We're allowed to challenge it in this country. It's what makes America great. It is a feature, not a bug. This is the setup to the whole article. Former President Donald Trump released a statement after the Supreme Court's decision not to halt the release of his taxes to a Manhattan district attorney, saying it's a continuation of a witch hunt against him. Earlier in the day, the Supreme Court threw out Trump's request to place a lower court ruling on hold that directs his accounting firm, Mazars USA, to comply with a subpoena that would turn over his tax records and financial documents to a grand jury convened by Democratic Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance. Is Trump a drama queen with a persecution complex? Yes, he frames everything based on personal slights against him. I'm not saying that's entirely wrong. It may not be wise, but he has a point here. This is a witch hunt. Now that he's out of office, they can go after his taxes, and these are a bunch of little wussies out in New York who are going to give him hell simply for being a conservative. The other implication is they have found no wrongdoing, but they know they're going to find wrongdoing in these taxes. Regardless of if Trump did wrongdoing or not, they're going to find it. That was the point of the Russia investigation, and this is why he is entitled to a persecution complex. He is being persecuted. I don't know anything about his taxes. I know they're going to find a bunch of stuff to tie him up in courts, to fine him, to try and get to limit his ability to do business in New York. We all know that. Why? Not because of their rigid adherence to the law. The Democrats do not care about the law whatsoever when it goes against their politics. That's a confirmation bias many of us have. It is not a noble character trait. Principle ought to apply to one side as much as the other. So I'm only saying, to the same account that they do to Trump, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This should apply to Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, de Blasio, Andrew Cuomo, If this is going to be the standard they're going to go by, then we ought to unleash a bunch of Republican lawyers on Democrats with no evidence of wrongdoing to go on a witch hunt and go through all their taxes to find stuff and tie them up in courts. This is un-American and stupid. Here's what the document says. These are Trump's words. This investigation is a continuation of the greatest political witch hunt in the history of our country, whether it was the never-ending $32 million Mueller hoax, which already investigated everything that could possibly be investigated, Russia, where there was a finding of no collusion or two ridiculous, crazy Nancy-inspired impeachment attempts where I was found not guilty. It just never ends. Now, this is what the elite Republicans hate about Trump. And this is what all of us who are fans of him love. This is common vernacular. He's addressing the Supreme Court. And this isn't some button-down formal, the gentleman across the aisle from me, blah, blah, blah. He's going to address Clarence Thomas and Sotomayor with this kind of language. He goes on the 32 million Mueller hoax, and then he also uses his tag phrases. This is how you win culture. It's like in chess. In chess, you always attack and defend at the same time. Russia. These are his catchphrases, and also using Crazy Nancy. This goes into the court record. Crazy Nancy. Trump is your average nuts and bolts American, and that's what the debate is about today. Is conservatives have always been about the proper means, that is, following the rules to get to the proper ends. And leftism does not believe in proper means, that is, immaterial truths, immaterial manners in the way that we conduct ourselves. They only believe in achieving those preferred ends. Its ends justify any means. So this is also where Trump parts ways with classic conservatism, because he is crass, because he is blunt, because he will not use the highest, most beautiful linguistics that are normally all throughout our legal documents when someone's addressing the courts. But is it morally wrong to be crass? Is it wrong to wear a t-shirt to a funeral if you're crying, if you're mourning? And then what about the man who wears the suit to the funeral but shows no emotion or no mourning or feels nothing in his heart? That's where there's something very human and deep about Trump, in spite of so many criticisms I would have about the guy, about him not using manners, about calling Rosie O'Donnell a pig. And many of you will say, well, she is a pig. But I was raised by traditional manners. You do not call a woman a pig. So that is a means that we can't get around. So the only problem is Trump's crassness, is Trump's calling Rosie O'Donnell a pig worse? That is his breach of manners worse than following the rules and performing a witch hunt on a private citizen? See, that's another sin. And one is a greater sin against the state than the other. So calling a woman a pig is a terrible thing among us, among the people down below the line, the common man. But up in the courts, before the Supreme Court, and before the memory of Washington and Madison and Hamilton and John Adams and Lincoln, before those great formal men, to use the law to go after a private citizen's taxes and go on a witch hunt to try to find sin, tie him up in the courts, possibly fine him or put him in prison or prevent him from doing business in New York, that is a greater sin. That is what Trump exposes. It's not that I give him a pass for putting Crazy Nancy in a formal document. It's that there is a far greater elephant in the room. And you know what party I mean? by elephant. I'm Doug TenNapel, in exile.